Evidence types. Best evidence. Original written documents. Written documentation is sacrosanct in U.S. law. Nothing carries more weight. Secondary evidence. Copies of documents. Witness testimony. Their five senses. What they heard, what they saw, what they smelled, what they tasted, what they touched. Direct evidence. Something that proves a point. Helps to prove a point. Conclusive evidence, something that's irrefutable, helps to prove a fact, may prove a fact in of itself. It's conclusive, it cannot be broken. Opinion, let's come back to opinion. Corroborative evidence, something that helps to prove a fact. Does not prove the fact all by itself, but is additional to help prove something occurred. Circumstantial, does not prove a fact, but helps you to assume the existence of a fact. Doesn't prove the fact, but raises it to the level of assumption of a fact. Based on a lot of murder cases, the majority of them are based primarily on circumstantial evidence. Facts are assumed because of evidence that did not directly prove, but enough of it together, people go, yes, I'm convinced. Hearsay. What one person said, another person says, no first-hand proof. I overheard my hairdresser talking to her coworker about her husband who works over at the shipyard, where they were listening to someone else talk about how Sammy the fish was going to work with Billy the butcher to make sure that a witness to some murder case that happened in another state, of which that person's cousin actually was there at the time, overheard someone else talk about what had happened. Well, that's as good as reading something on the internet. You gotta believe that. Hearsay, no real proof. Usually not going to carry any weight. Demonstrative. Experiments, flip charts, things that you can show in a court. Computer animation. Well, do not do computer animation. If you're going to do demonstrative things, keep them simple, keep them factual, make them convincing, or don't do it. Judges hate things that they feel make a mockery of their courtroom. Flip charts are okay. Walking through the steps of a crime, generally okay. Avoid computer animation. I've seen enough books say it's a good idea. Don't. Opinion evidence. Expert witnesses. Now, one of my favorite movies is My Cousin Vinny. He had two Utes. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, but it's fun. And surprisingly, even though it's a comedy, it actually got evidence, presentation, courtroom procedure down better than most dramas. There's a sad statement about Hollywood. They can't turn out a drama that has courtrooms right, but they can do a comedy that does. But you had an expert witness talking about an HB spectrograph analyzer, looking at tire marks and determining the type of rubber that was used by the car that was involved by the murderers. And the tires were Michelin XGB 175 R14s, the most common tire of a car of that age. I do not know why I remember that. I have probably seen that movie way too many times. But he presented his evidence. Another expert witness came up and refuted the evidence. Remember, they have specialized knowledge. The car, the defendants did not have a lock-up torque converter. So when one wheel would turn, the other one would just, if one was spinning, the other one could just sit idle. You would not have had a skid mark from the second. The defendant's car didn't have a lock-up torque converter. It could not have left that particular skid mark, whereas the actual murderer's car would. That is opinion evidence represented by an expert witness. That carries reasonable weight. Now, I mentioned hearsay. I talked about how it's near worthless. Computer-generated evidence, like log files, are generally viewed as hearsay, meaning near worthless. That should give you butterflies in your stomach and a sinking feeling, because that's most of the evidence you're going to be presenting. Here's some good news. There's the business records exemption to the hearsay rule. If records are collected in the normal course of business, by documented policy and procedure, and you can show that you routinely do it, and your logs are collected that way, and they are properly preserved, they are collected, they are not altered, you maintain a chain of custody on it, and they're found to be real, relevant, and material, and the judge allows it, it will be accepted as documentary evidence or direct evidence instead of hearsay, and that gives it much more weight. But it must be conducted in the regular course of business by documented standards and procedures.